It started like any other morning. The air was still, the sun just peeking over the tree line, and the sound of the creek out back was the only thing breaking the silence. Out here, peace isn't something you take for granted. You earn it. I'd spent years fixing this land up, one fence post and one sunrise at a time. Then I saw it, a letter tucked neatly between the gate rails. No stamp, no name, just 3 clean letters printed in bold, Shay. At first I thought it was junk mail, but something about the way it was placed, too deliberate, too smug, made me pause. Inside was a message dressed as an offer. A community expansion proposal, promises of paved roads, shared amenities, and a price for my land. They called it progress. I called it a warning. I remember standing there, holding that paper and smiling to myself. They thought they were buying dirt. They didn't know they were trespassing on a legacy. That was the day the HOA learned. You can't strong-arm a man who built the ground you're standing on. But let me start at the beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. I still remember the way my father used to talk about this land. Not like it was property, but like it was family. He'd say, "The earth remembers who tends it." As a kid, I didn't get it. Dirt was dirt. But as the years went on, through droughts, storms, and hard winters, I learned what he meant. This place wasn't just where we lived. It was who we were. Most mornings I'd wake before sunrise. The world's quieter then. No traffic, no voices, just the hum of crickets fading into birdsong. I'd walk the fence line with my coffee in hand, checking for breaks, watching the mist lift off the field. Everything I needed was here: peace, work, and the simple kind of freedom that doesn't come with signatures or contracts. That's why the letter caught me off guard. It was a Wednesday. I remember because the feed truck had just come by and Scout, my old dog, was barking like the driver owed him money. I found the envelope stuck in the gate, white and neat, like it didn't belong here. No return address, just a tidy logo embossed at the corner, Silver Hollow Association. I figured it was a mistake. Maybe something meant for the new subdivision down the road, the one with identical houses where everyone waves but no one really knows each other. I opened it anyway. The letter started polite enough. "We are reaching out with an offer to integrate your property into the Silver Hollow community." That word, integrate, already rubbed me the wrong way. They offered to acquire my land for future development plans, promising a payout and lifetime membership privileges. I chuckled reading it. Lifetime membership, on land that's been in my family for 4 generations. I folded the letter, slipped it into my jacket pocket, and thought that'd be the end of it. But I should have known better. The next afternoon, a shiny black SUV rolled up my drive. Out stepped a woman dressed too perfectly for a dirt road, blazer, heels, clipboard in hand, and sunglasses that didn't move when she smiled. "Mr. Holloway?" she said, her tone polished and firm. "Karen Martell, president of the Silver Hollow HOA. I believe you received our letter." Her voice carried the same confidence as someone who'd already made the sale. I nodded slowly. "I did, and I appreciate the offer, but this land isn't for sale." She smiled wider, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "Oh, I think you'll reconsider. There's opportunity here, and I'd hate for you to get left out when progress arrives." Progress. Another word that didn't sit right. "I'm doing just fine without it," I told her. For a second, she just stood there, tapping her pen on her clipboard. Then she leaned in a little, lowering her voice like we were in on some secret. "We'll be developing right up to your property line. It's inevitable. You could be part of something bigger." I smiled back. "Ma'am, I am part of something bigger. It's called Montana." That earned me a sharp exhale through her nose, the polite version of a scoff. She thanked me for my time, spun on her heels, and walked back to her SUV. Dust followed her down the road, but I couldn't shake the feeling that her visit wasn't the last. The next week, things started to feel off. A strange car parked by the main road for hours, a drone buzzing low over the fields at dusk, and a man I didn't recognize walking along the creek with a clipboard of his own. When I waved, he didn't wave back, just turned and left. Then came the second letter. It wasn't an offer this time. It was a notice. Unauthorized structures within proximity to HOA development zone. It listed my barn, my fence, and even my chicken coop. According to them, I was in violation of upcoming community standards. Upcoming. Meaning, They hadn't even built the thing yet. I sat at my kitchen table staring at that paper, feeling equal parts disbelief and amusement. Scout sat at my feet, watching me like he could tell something was brewing. I wasn't the kind to start fights, but I wasn't about to roll over, either. So I called the number on the letter. A chipper voice answered, "Silver Hollow Association." "This is Valerie." "Yeah, this is Mark Holloway. I got a notice about my barn being unauthorized." Pause. Then, "Oh, are you one of the new residents?" "No," I said. "I'm the guy whose barn has been standing here since your development was still a prairie." Silence. Then, "One moment, please." A click, some hold music, and then Karen's voice came on. "Mr. Holloway, I was hoping you'd call." "Yeah, figured we should clear this up," I said. "Your notice says I'm violating rules from an association I'm not even part of." She sighed, that slow, condescending kind. "Mark, you're within our zoning overlay. It's standard procedure. Nothing to be alarmed about." "I'm not alarmed," I said. "Just wondering how you plan to enforce rules across a property line that's been here since before your HOA existed." She didn't answer right away. "We'll be in touch," she said finally, then hung up. By the weekend, I noticed new stakes in the ground near my fence, little pink flags marking something. And one morning, Scout's barking woke me at dawn. When I stepped outside, I saw them. 2 yellow excavators parked just beyond my property line, their engines idling. Men in hard hats stood around talking. The air smelled of diesel and arrogance. I walked up to the fence, hands in my pockets. One of the workers turned toward me. "You Mark Holloway?" "Yep." He pointed toward the ridge. "We're starting prep work for the access road. HOA approved." "Not on my side, you're not," I said, nodding to the line of survey markers. "You're 3 feet into my property," he frowned. "We just follow orders, sir." "Then maybe your boss should learn how to read a deed," I said, turning back toward my porch. As the machines roared to life, I stood there watching dirt fly where my father once taught me how to plant fence posts. I could almost hear his voice in the back of my head. "The land remembers who tends it." I wasn't angry. Not yet. But as the engines thundered and the first scoop of soil crossed that invisible line, something in me settled. Not panic, not fear. Just a quiet certainty. If they wanted to test boundaries, I was about to show them exactly where they were. And that's how it started, with 1 letter, 1 fence line, and 1 woman who didn't understand the kind of man she was dealing with. The morning it started felt like any other. Quiet, sun still stretching over the horizon, birds doing their usual chatter. Then came the sound. Not thunder, not wind, something worse. A deep, mechanical growl that made the ground hum under my boots. I stepped out onto the porch with Scout right behind me, his ears perked, tail stiff. Across the field, a line of heavy machinery crawled along my western fence. Backhoes, bulldozers, and a white SUV sitting like a command post. And there she was, a Karen Martell, clipboard in hand, designer sunglasses, acting like she owned the damn sunrise. "Morning, Mr. Holloway," she shouted, her voice almost cheerful over the engines. "Karen?" I called back. "What's this circus?" She didn't flinch. "Routine maintenance, soil stabilization." Just on our side, I looked past her. The trench they were digging wasn't on her side. It was slicing right into mine, deep enough to bury a truck. "You sure about that?" I asked, walking toward the fence. She smiled, that same practiced grin. "Our survey says yes. You might want to double-check yours." I felt my jaw tighten. "You're trespassing." "Don't be dramatic," she said, waving her hand. "You'll thank us when your property drains better." That's when I realized she wasn't here to negotiate. She was here to box me in. By noon, they'd carved a trench halfway around my property. By evening, I had 1 narrow driveway left, my only connection to the county road. And by morning, even that was gone. A dump truck blocked the exit, parked diagonally like a barricade. I was landlocked. When I called the sheriff's office, the dispatcher sounded calm, like she'd heard crazier things that day. "Sir, is anyone in danger?" "Only if you count my patients," I said. "They're digging around my house without permission." A deputy came about half an hour later. Young guy, polite, nervous. His name tag said Wilkins. He took notes, snapped photos, and tried to sound official. Karen met him at the fence, her tone all sugar. "Oh, deputy, we're well within our right-of-way. Here, look at our documentation." She handed him laminated maps. I swear she must have printed them that morning. Lines looked thicker than any real plat map I'd ever seen. Wilkins frowned. We'll need to verify these with the county. Until then, no one crosses into Mr. Holloway's living area. Technically. Technically? I asked. He shrugged helplessly. Land disputes get messy, sir. I'll file a report. Karen smirked behind him, like she'd already won. That night, I sat on my porch, watching the machines idle in the distance. The trench glowed faintly red from the clay beneath, cutting through the land like an ugly scar. I wasn't scared. I was still in that quiet, calculating way that comes before a storm, because I wasn't helpless, not even close. See, years back, I installed cameras all over my property. Not the store-bought kind with blinking lights and monthly fees. These were trail cams, solar-powered, motion-triggered, and hidden where no one would think to look. Inside fence posts, birdhouses, even one tucked into an old gnome statue my niece gave me as a joke. Every bit of footage uploaded to a private server through a hardwired repeater under my shed. Overkill? Maybe. But growing up out here teaches you to expect everything, from coyotes to copper thieves, and this time those cameras were about to pay off. Over the next few days, I stayed calm. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just documented. One clip showed the backhoe crossing clearly into my property, boundary markers in plain view. Another had 2 workers laughing as they dragged survey flags closer to my barn. But the best one, the one that made my blood go cold, caught Karen herself pointing at my well pump. Make sure that trench runs close, she said. He won't last long without water. That was all I needed. The next morning, I drove into town, flash drive in my pocket. Deputy Wilkins was at the front desk looking surprised to see me. Got something to show you, I said. He led me to a small back office where his supervisor, Carter, big guy, gray mustache, zero patience for nonsense, joined us. I plugged in the drive and played the footage. Karen's voice filled the room. He won't last long without water. Carter sighed. Well, hell, that's clear as day. But land law is slow. We'll need a county survey before we can move them. That's fine, I said, standing. Just make sure this stays on record. He nodded. Oh, it's on record. And if I were her, I'd be sweating bullets. I went home, brewed some coffee, and thought long and hard about my next move. Fighting quietly only works when the other side has shame. Karen didn't. So I did something different. I went public. That night, I posted the clips online, 3 short videos showing the trench, the property line, and Karen's orders. Title was simple. HOA digs around my private property without consent. Within hours, it spread. Neighbors shared it. Local folks commented things like, wait, that's outside the HOA. And is this even legal? Someone tagged the local news. Then regional pages picked it up. By morning, reporters were calling. By noon, the video had tens of thousands of views. That's when the emails started. Cease and desist letters from Silver Hollow Legal, claiming I was spreading misinformation. I laughed. If you don't like the footage, I wrote back, stop starring in it. Karen must have been furious. The next day, I caught 2 guys trying to install fencing across my well line again. They saw me walking up and stammered something about safety precautions. You're trespassing, I said calmly, lifting my phone. Smile for the camera, again. They left in a hurry. That clip went online too, and it exploded. A local reporter did a full segment titled, HOA attempts to block homeowner's water supply. After that, the fire was unstoppable. By the end of the week, Silver Hollow wasn't just infamous, it was a meme. People all over the country were calling it the HOA siege. Talk shows made jokes. A lawyer on YouTube broke down my footage frame by frame, saying, this guy has them dead to rights. And just like that, the trench that was supposed to isolate me ended up isolating them. The county launched an investigation. The developers behind Silver Hollow pulled their funding pending legal review. Karen resigned from the HOA within days, citing stress-related reasons. Rumor has it, she sold her house and moved 2 towns over. I never saw her again. One morning, weeks later, I stood at the edge of that trench, now filled back in, grass beginning to grow over the scars. The land was quiet again. Just the wind, the trees, and Scout trotting beside me like nothing had ever happened. I thought about my dad then. about how he used to say, "The land remembers." He was right. It remembered the hands that built the fences, the storms that tested them, and the people who tried to claim what wasn't theirs. In the end, I didn't need to fight with fists or lawsuits. I just told the truth and let the world see what kind of people they really were. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come with a gavel. Sometimes, it comes with a camera and a man who refuses to move an inch.